Welcome to Invested in Climate. Protecting the planet and decarbonizing the global economy is the challenge of our time. We all have a role to play, and the opportunity we face is unprecedented. Invested in Climate aims to help people do more to address climate change through their work, investments, lifestyle, and activism. I'm your host, Jason Rissman. I support a growing community of top climate and ESG leaders as the Chief Experience Officer at NationsWell, and I'm an advisor to the climate practice at IDEO. I'm also an investor and startup advisor, and when it comes to climate action, I know I'll be a lifelong learner, always looking to have more impact. If you like what you hear, give us a good rating on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you found us. Sign up for updates and suggest ideas for future episodes at investedinclimate.com. Follow us on social, subscribe, and spread the word. Thanks for joining.
So when I think about the use of AI, the geospatial analytics that can be done, the use of large language models to gain the right insights that could help nonprofit organizations or corporations or governments, I think that there's so much that it can do to have a positive impact in our communities and to help communities that are most threatened by climate change and environmental threats. That's one area. I think when we think about AI in terms of what it can do to be more efficient, productive, to help us move forward with our ESG goals and our reporting, I think there's great opportunity there as well.
Hey everyone, it's a sad truth that many companies are struggling or failing to meet their sustainability targets. Sensitive to anti-ESG pressure, interest rates, and other macro factors, many are also holding back from making new commitments. Currently, less than 10% of the Fortune Global 500 has a net zero commitment in place. Amidst this context, it's all the more important to shine a light on the companies that have made ambitious targets and that are working hard to achieve them. IBM is one such company. They began disclosing their CO2 emissions 30 years ago, and since 2010, they've cut emissions by nearly 70%. That's not to say their path is without challenges. They've made a big bet on AI, which of course drives up energy usage dramatically. To understand IBM's sustainability strategy and progress, I was pleased to sit down with IBM Chief Impact Officer, Justina Nixon-Saintil. Justina is a member of NationsWell, the executive membership network where I work. We talked about Justina's background and role, the main focus areas for sustainability at IBM, some of their successes and challenges, how AI factors into the mix, their Sustainability Accelerator program, and much more. Justina, welcome to Invested in Climate. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation for some time and excited to learn all about IBM's sustainability work and your recently launched accelerator. But before we go there, let's learn a bit about you. You currently serve as IBM's Vice President and Chief Impact Officer and President of IBM International Foundation. Tell us a bit about your background and what led you to your current role at IBM.
When I think about my background, I think everything that I've done up to date has led me here. And going back just many, many years ago, I actually was very interested in how things worked. And I would take apart small items, just very curious. And I also excelled in math, which led me to a degree in mechanical engineering. And that degree in mechanical engineering actually opened up a lot of doors. If you think about what engineers do, their main purpose is to help solve some of the biggest challenges in the world. And one of my first jobs out of college was to make sure that radioactive slurry did not leak into the water supply of a local community. And that was working with the Department of Energy. So when I look back and I think about the fact that as an engineer, I was working on this big challenge, which is really a sustainability challenge as well, to what I do today, I feel like I've always been on this path. So fast forward, I moved from working on radioactive slurry with radioactive slurry to working at a great company, Verizon, where I was supporting clients and working on the initial launch of DSL. I know that I'm dating myself here. And this was pre-FiOS for those folks who understand the telecommunications industry, but really supporting our customers around their use of DSL and then eventually moving into corporate social responsibility where I was focused on how do we move from just providing grants, what we call traditional philanthropy, to creating programs and platforms that are strategically aligned with a corporation's mission and initiatives to really measure the impact we're having in society. So I started doing a lot of that work at Verizon through Verizon Innovative Learning, and eventually came to IBM to lead their global implementation of their education and sustainability and volunteerism initiatives, including leading their ESG strategy, governance, and reporting as well. So I look back, right? Everything from being curious, looking at engineering from a different lens and how we can solve some of these big issues, all the way to what I do today. I feel like I've been on this path all along.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Justina. And yeah, it's funny. I haven't heard DSL in a long time, so definitely refreshes my memory. So let's go deeper into your current role. Tell us a bit about what you're responsible for and the kinds of things that you're thinking about every day at IBM.
I have the great honor of being IBM's first Chief Impact Officer. And IBM has, of course, led corporate responsibility work for many, many years. We're a 113-year-old company. We issued the first environmental policy over 50 years ago. We've had such great programs from corporate service corps to education initiatives that have had an impact in our schools, in society. So this work is not new to IBM, but being able to create this role where the focus is really on how are we strategically aligned with where the business is going? How do we make sure we look at ESG as well across our business and make sure that we're preparing for regulation around that? And how do we ramp up our efforts in education and sustainability to have a lasting impact? So these are really the components of my role as Chief Impact Officer. And really what I focus on every day is how do we create, how do we drive, how do we scale impactful initiatives globally. One of the things that we very much do is, again, strategically align the work that we do. So we are a leader in AI and hybrid cloud. We are very focused on how are we training people on artificial intelligence and ethical AI. How are we looking at how we use AI and sustainability to have a significant impact with our nonprofits in our communities? And then, of course, hybrid cloud as well. How do we make sure we're training people in university, adults who want to move into the tech field? How do we bring the right access to these types of technologies, these types of programs to them so that they could be successful in the workplace? So a lot of what we do is focused on where our companies and where our companies going and really measuring that impact in our communities.
Thanks, Justina. It's worth taking a step back and recognizing IBM's scale and its history and its role a bit. The company operates in more than 175 countries and employs over 280,000 people. You're a long recognized leader at the intersection of business and technology, influencing not just your many clients, but the advancement of technology capabilities and business practices. And many people don't know it, but IBM has long been a leader in sustainability. The company was a founding partner in helping the US EPA launch Energy Star, and that was back in 1992. You began disclosing your CO2 emissions in 94, set your first CO2 emissions reduction goal in 2000, and made your first purchase of renewable electricity in 2001. And this is long before many companies were thinking about any of these things. Since 2010, you've cut your emissions by nearly 70%. So I think that's helpful context as we turn to IBM's sustainability strategy. And I know it's impossible to convey everything that you're doing or trying to do, but I wonder if you can share a bit of the pillars of your strategy and how you set priorities.
Everything that we do is connected to our broader social impact strategy, and that's called IBM Impact. And this was a framework that we launched 2 years ago. This is a unified, comprehensive approach that provides an organized way for us to communicate and demonstrate progress against our commitments. And you mentioned some of the commitments that we have, right? Being net zero with our GHG emissions by 2030 is one big commitment we have in the environmental space. Reaching, I think, over 90% with our purchase of renewables by 2030 as well. So we have a number of goals that we have made and is part of this larger framework that has 3 pillars: environmental impact, equitable impact, and ethical impact. And all of our goals and commitments are under each of those pillars. And every year when we release our IBM Impact Report, we demonstrate our progress. We are very transparent in making sure we are disclosing our data and making sure that we're demonstrating all the progress we've made against all of our goals within that pillar.
Great. And much of your impacts on environmental issues will be through your partners, both your clients as well as your supply chain. Can you share a bit about your approach to influencing those stakeholders?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me do it through a CSR lens because we work with nonprofits globally to implement the programs that we do around sustainability and education. What's so critical about partnerships is that they understand the communities. When I travel, which I do extensively, and I am in Sao Paulo or I'm in Tokyo or any of the different Bangalore, for example, and I meet with partners, they understand what the communities need. In Sao Paulo, they understand the favelas and what's happening there and how we can bring our education programs and our sustainability programs to better support the underserved populations in those areas. So working with partners really contributes to the impact that we have on the ground, and it also contributes to scaling our work because they bring that expertise around the community, and we bring the expertise as a tech company with our investments around the work that we do, right? So that partnership works very, very well. I don't think any corporation can do this kind of work in a silo. You need corporations, you need government as well. You need those nonprofit organizations to make it work and make it work in the most positive way with measurable results from the partnership. So we work with government agencies, we work with NGOs, we work with multilateral organizations to scale our AI solutions. And we do that through our Sustainability Accelerator program, but also through our SkillsBuild program. And we align everything we do with SDGs. And many of our nonprofit partners are very focused on the SDGs. So it's a really nice marriage between us, the nonprofits, and making sure that we're demonstrating that impact on the ground.
Thanks, Justina. We will definitely turn to AI. I want to learn a lot more about what you're doing and how you're thinking about AI and its role in sustainability. But first, let's talk about challenges. Many large companies are acknowledging that they aren't currently on track to meet their goals. And when we look collectively, scientists say that we're not on track to keep temperatures rise to 1.5 degrees. Perhaps it's closer to 2 degrees or even 2.5 degrees. So I'd love to hear about some of the challenges that you're facing and how you think about that gap that we're seeing between companies and the targets that they set and what they're able to really accomplish.
Some of the biggest challenges that we hear is understanding the data that companies have. This is one area where AI can make a difference. There are many platforms, and for example, at IBM, we use a platform called Envisi, where we can actually track a lot of our environmental data. We can analyze that data. We can make decisions based on that data. So I think one of the biggest challenges for companies around sustainability is understanding where the data is, being able to analyze that data, and making sure they have the products and solutions that can help them iterate on their own programs and make sure they're making the right decisions to decrease their emissions. So I think that is one big challenge. The other challenge that we hear about a lot and we face as well is ensuring that there's a just transition. When you look at the changes that are happening around environmental threats and climate change, how do we make sure we are not leaving swaths of the population behind? How do we make sure that we are supporting them and they have access to the right programs, the supports, the expertise to really be successful throughout this transition? So I think a big challenge for companies, the data, how do you make sure you have it? How do you have the right tools, artificial intelligence, for example, and all the right software and platforms to analyze the data and make the right decisions? And the second big challenge, how to make sure we're supporting communities and really focus on a just transition and making sure we're not leaving anyone behind.
And what about for decarbonization? What about some of the challenges that you faced in reaching your decarbonization goals or that you see others facing? What's the hardest parts and what holds you back the most?
We are very focused in this area as a company that also sells sustainability products and expertise through our consulting arm with other companies in all different sectors. I think this is an area of opportunity, right? To be able to demonstrate not just what IBM is doing, but also to bring our services and our expertise to other companies. I think companies overall have to think about what makes sense for their industry, for their products, their services, for their business, and to really put the right steps and actions in place to be able to move right towards decarbonization, and also to make sure that they are demonstrating progress and they're transparent around it. I don't think, again, like I mentioned, companies just can't do this alone. So they need that support. They need the expertise. They need to be able to look at what works for other companies and to be able to do what's right for them in their industry and in the areas that make sense for them. So again, I think it is a challenge across the board, but there are so many different ways that this can be solved. But it needs companies to focus on this and not, again, do it in a silo.
Great. Let's talk about AI. IBM is well known not only for being a company with a legacy for really revolutionizing the use of computers in business, but also for spearheading development in artificial intelligence. AI is, of course, getting a lot of attention, both for the transformative potential it brings to climate solutions and sustainability more generally, but also for the enormous amounts of energy it consumes. So tell us how you see AI and sustainability. What will it take to limit the carbon impact of training language models and putting AI to work? And what are some of the AI applications for sustainability that are most exciting to you?
I would say AI is going to make a significant difference in sustainability. I think there are two ways that we're looking at this, right? The first is AI is a tool, and a tool can serve different purposes. But what I'm most excited about is how AI can be used to process very complex data, take that data and move it into concrete insights that can make a difference for populations, especially those populations that lack access to technology and platforms and solutions, right? To me, that's a game changer. So when I think about the use of AI, the geospatial analytics that can be done, the use of large language models to gain the right insights that could help nonprofit organizations or corporations or governments, I think that there's so much that it can do to have a positive impact in our communities and to help communities that are most threatened by climate change and environmental threats. That's one area. I think when we think about AI in terms of what it can do to be more efficient, productive, to help us move forward with our ESG goals and our reporting, I think there's great opportunity there as well. We get a lot of questions from partners, from clients, from investors, from many different stakeholders. And to be able to use AI to look at all of our data and all of our reporting and to be able to provide the right answers based on the stakeholder request, I think that's going to be a game changer for us as well. And maybe in the future, can AI create our IBM impact report for us? Can they actually create all of our disclosures for us? I think that's something that we can potentially see happening in the future as well. So I think it can be a game changer in sustainability, but I am most excited about how do we use large language models to make a difference for our partners and our communities. And we're already doing that. We are using large language models to help farmers understand environmental conditions like soil moisture and really understand what are the best practices that they can garner from those insights so that they can increase yield or understand when best to water their crops. So again, I think it could be a game changer in the sustainability space.
Justina, you're not the first impact leader that I've heard get really excited about the possibility of handing reporting responsibilities over to AI. So I'm sure someone's working on that. Stay tuned.
Yes. And we are actually internally as well. I mean, we have a Watson X platform. That's our AI platform. And we're looking at all different ways that we can leverage it, from agents to the large language models, analyzing the data. So we're leading in this space as well. And of course, we want to be client zero and be able to enable it for all the work that we do within CSR and ESG. So I am excited about that.
Well, one of your sustainability initiatives that, of course, caught my eye is IBM Sustainability Accelerator, a program to support organizations helping populations vulnerable to environmental threats. And you support them through funding and in-kind support. And this year, you announced an additional $45 million of investment for the program over the next 5 years. Tell us a bit about the program, the different focus areas, and what's new for the program this year.
I'm so excited about the Sustainability Accelerator. When I started at IBM around 3.5 years ago, I was really in awe of the types of solutions that we had access to. When I came in and realized the hybrid cloud and AI and got deeper into those areas, and then also realized we had weather data, significant weather data. We have a partnership with NASA. I mean, there's just so much fullness here. It was amazing to put all those pieces together and figure out how can we use our weather data, our geospatial analytics, our access to the expertise of our consulting teams and of our research teams, and really help nonprofit organizations understand how to leverage all of this to really iterate on solutions that they have or create new solutions that could help support vulnerable communities. And we started looking at this through the lens of the SDGs as well. If you think about different areas of focus, whether it's on clean energy or sustainable agriculture or resilient cities, which was the latest RFP that we just launched, water management, they're all aligned with a very specific SDG. So this is a program that is completely pro bono, is completely free for our partners. It leverages our expertise and our platforms and our technologies such as AI. And we work directly with nonprofit organizations, with governments as well, with university partners to iterate on products and solutions that are implemented in our communities and where we measure the impact. And every year we launch a new cohort with a new focus. As I mentioned, we already did work around sustainable agriculture. The ones in progress are water management and clean energy. And we just launched our resilient cities one. And next year, in the first quarter, we will launch an RFP for our new area that we want to focus on in 2025. So really excited about this. We actually just closed the RFP for resilient cities. We'll be selecting 5 organizations that are going to be part of that cohort. And the resilient cities one is really around how do we model impacts of climate change on cities using AI, and how we improve sustainable buildings and systems for city public services, and then how we use AI around forecasting and responding to natural disasters and extreme weather. So those are just some examples of some of the submissions we received, and we'll make an announcement of the final organizations later on this year.
Great. Well, we'll be excited to hear who those finalists are, and sounds like a really important topic, of course. Obviously, you can't talk about those organizations just yet, but what about ones from your previous cohorts? I'd love to hear about some of the organizations that have joined the accelerator and how they're benefiting from IBM's support.
Yeah, so there are a couple really great examples that we have. So one of the first cohorts that we launched was focused on sustainable agriculture. And we are working with an organization called Texas A&M AgriLife. And the purpose of that partnership is to improve farmers' water usage, especially in very arid regions. When you think about areas in the middle of the country where farmers struggle around water usage, right? We really worked with them to figure out how do we use large language models to analyze the real-time soil moisture and temperature data, and then how do we then provide farmers with recommendations on when and how much to water crops. So this is one where we are seeing significant impact. We are seeing increases in yield, and this initiative and those solutions are being scaled to other areas across the US. Another example is around our partnership with Sustainable Energy for All, where we're actually building an intelligent model to project energy needs based on current and future human activity. So we are working with Sustainable Energy for All in Kenya and other areas in Africa. And then what we're doing is we're going to use the model to help address key development challenges. For example, lack of energy access in some very rural areas in those countries. So I'm really excited about that. That's still in progress, and we'll be able to see some of those solutions very soon. And then finally, another really great example is with Plant 21 Foundation in Latin America, where we're actually providing 2 things, which I really like. First, we can't provide access to these platforms and weather data and all this technology without upskilling and training our farmers as well and our communities. So we are providing the farmers through the partnership with Plant 21 with technical training, and then they're going to use that technical training to make use of insights from weather data, from agronomic data and carbon footprint calculations. And that's going to make a difference for what they do as well. So these are just a few examples that We are seeing really good results from so far, but we are excited about the impact that we're having in these communities.
Those are great. I'd love to learn a little bit more about some of the struggles and the challenges that the organizations are facing. Having designed and run accelerator programs in the past, I know that they offer a front row access, a really interesting vantage point to the market. So I'd love to nerd out on this for a minute. What are a couple of things that your team has learned through running the accelerator about early stage innovators in terms of the challenges and the needs that they're facing? And obviously, money is going to always be an issue, but particularly around the in-kind supports that you're able to offer or that you just see as a gap in the market.
Yeah, the technical capabilities. I would say that's one of the biggest challenges. We're here at IBM. We have research scientists and software developers and so many people who are working on creating these programs and solutions and working with clients. And we are bringing them to work with nonprofit organizations that may not necessarily have all of that technical expertise to just take that solution and implement it. So that's why we work across our company to bring in IBMers who are volunteers who work hand in hand with those nonprofits. So they focus on transitioning, right, some of those technical skills to them, upskilling them as well so they can understand how to leverage the technology, how to leverage the data, and making sure that they could be sustainable themselves, right? So that they don't need long-term support, right, from companies like ours. So we work with these organizations over a period of 2 years. And within those 2 years, it's that huge challenge about the capacity to be able to leverage technology and these types of platforms to really make a difference that we come across the most. So that's why that technical training and that longer term partnership over a period of 2 years is critical to help support these organizations. You can't just go to them, drop in a solution, drop in some new technology, and within a month or 6 weeks say, good luck, right? And let us know how it's going. You have to continue to work closely with them over a longer period to make sure they could overcome that challenge.
Given IBM's expertise in AI, I'm curious, of course, about other startup spaces you think will really be transformed by AI. You've talked a bit about sustainable ag, you've talked about resilient cities. What other climate tech spaces are really exciting to you where you see an opportunity for AI?
That's a very good question. This is an area that we have not necessarily dabbled in, but one that keeps rising to the top in a lot of discussions is around biodiversity. I'm not an expert. I don't know exactly, right, examples of how it can be used, but I'm assuming that everything around geospatial analytics, being able to look at land and making decisions based on that, I think AI can have a really, really good place there. But definitely, biodiversity is an area that is becoming more and more of a concern for many corporations and governments. And I think that's going to be another area of significant focus.
Fantastic. Justina, another program that caught my eye is IBM's SkillsBuild, which launched a roadmap of sustainability courses to help learners from communities underrepresented in technology and help them develop the green and tech skills needed today. Can you tell us a bit about the program and what sorts of skills are prioritized by the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are very committed to the future of work. And this is something that IBM has led for many, many years. And when I came on board, being able to launch this global program that is open for everyone called SkillsBuild is a huge part of why we made that commitment to skill 30 million people by 2030. When we looked across IBM, we saw so much opportunity to be able to bring tech skills, especially AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, hybrid cloud. Those are just some of the tech skills that we are bringing to our communities and different populations. We start working with students starting at the high school age. Then we have really great partnerships with thousands of universities globally, where we also give them free access to this type of training. And then we work with adults who are looking to move into a new field or who are interested in upskilling themselves to be successful in their current fields. So these are all the different groups that we work with our SkillsBuild program, and it's completely free. Just last year, we launched an integrated roadmap of sustainability and tech skills courses. Because when you think about sustainability, when you think about AI, it's all joined together, right? You can't have one without the other. And we have realized that there's been a demand for green skills through a lot of the different partners and corporations that we have spoken with. So we actually have curriculum that's focused on green skills that really are around sustainability, but embedded in cloud and AI and data analytics. And that's available on IBM SkillsBuild as well.
Incredible. What an ambitious goal of 30 million learners by 2030. There's, of course, competition in the space. What do you do to make sure that folks find out about the program, and how do you aim for it to stand out?
We do it in a number of ways. First, we work with global partners to bring them on board, to help them actually access the program, to make sure that we are customizing it in a way that works for the population that they're focused on, whether they're universities, whether these are organizations that are focused on moving more women into tech, or moving more underrepresented minorities or refugees or low income population. So we make sure we customize the access to the curriculum, the learning pathways, the data that we have available, all to the nonprofits' needs and the targeted groups. So that's the first thing. And they, in turn, promote this to their communities. They bring people along. They make sure they provide, for example, project-based learning opportunities to some of their communities. And they want to make sure people complete the learning pathways because you get a badge. And that badge or credential can be used when you're applying for a job. So we have found that a lot of people who are taking part in the program and finish the learning pathways and get a badge at the end, we're seeing that they're able to get a higher paying opportunity, right? More meaningful work in the tech field. And in the end, this is the outcome that we are looking for. So definitely we promote it through our nonprofit organizations. It's also a fully available platform. Anyone can access it. They can create their own learning pathways. The website is skillsbuild.org. So we also promote it through our social channels and through our marketing arm as well. But I would say through our nonprofit organizations, that's really where we want to see the real impact of the program. And we work very closely with them to do that.
Justina, let's leave off with some practical advice or recommendations you have for other sustainability leaders or other folks working to address climate. You have a truly unique vantage point at IBM, and I'm grateful for really all that you've shared with us today. What recommendations or advice can you offer others interested in addressing climate change and other environmental challenges today?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is if you want to have a long and lasting positive impact in your communities, you have to align the work you do with the mission of your organization, your company. It has to be aligned with the purpose. When I think about IBM's purpose, it is to be the catalyst that makes the world work better. And I feel like the work that we do in CSR completely aligns to that purpose. So first of all, align your work to the purpose of your business, align your work to the strategy of your business, and then look to see what are the products and solutions across your company that can really have an impact in society, and who are your relevant stakeholders, right? Who can give you that support that's needed, that partnership you need to really make sure that you're doing the right work and having a benefit to your business as well. The benefit could be more employee attraction. It could be higher brand reputation. It could also be getting some input and feedback on some of your products and solutions, right, across different targeted populations and groups. So again, aligning it to your company's purpose and mission, looking to see where you can get close partnership across the stakeholders within your business, and then also making sure that you're measuring impact and making sure that you're able to demonstrate a benefit to your business. The second thing I would say is make sure that you are transparent in what you're doing, right? You want to make sure you have clear commitments, a strategic plan, you're making the right decisions, and that you're being transparent around it. And that's how you build trust with governments, with your nonprofit organizations, with other corporations, but mainly you build trust in the communities that you want to impact by being transparent. And the last thing I would say is make sure you're not working in a silo. I mentioned this at the very beginning of our discussion, but one of the major things I've learned in my career is that no one corporation can solve these issues alone. They cannot. It's actually almost impossible. So you have to make sure that you are partnered with other organizations. You are finding the right alliances. You are working with those on the ground who are closer to the space. You need to make sure you're not working in a silo, but you have the right partnerships in place to really maximize the impact of your work and have synergies around these corporations to really be able to scale the work as well. So those are the three things that I would share.
Thank you so much, Justina. It was wonderful spending time with you, sending you all the best wishes for your continued progress.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Great discussion. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Invested in Climate. Please remember to rate us on Apple, Spotify, or Google. Find show notes, sign up for updates, get in touch, and visualize your climate action at investedinclimate.com. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial, accounting, or legal advice. Thanks again.